Um, Thank you, Tim, for waking up early from Germany. Welcome to Utah Valley University. Boy, what an awesome film. This is just one of my favorite films, like, of all time. There's so many things I love about this film. And let me tag you too, so we don't have to look at me. Um, but um, but I'm going to ask you just like one question, and then I'm going to turn it over to students.
Of course.
And the question I want to ask, there's so many I want to ask, but the one I think I will take is one of the things that when I saw this film, I was like, I've got to show this to students because of all the technology of this broadcast, right? Just the 1970s, tape to tape machines and the creating the graphics and all that stuff was just so fascinating. And clearly that's not something you're working in daily. And and so much of it is like integral to the storyline itself. And so I'm wondering about just your research into just all of that actual physical filmmaking and television making technology and how you went about that and kind of what you learned and how it shaped the story.
First of all, hello everybody, and thanks for inviting me. I actually felt quite honored when that came in, so it was important for me also to get up early here and to do this. Well, that's a good question because it was a very crucial point of research, of course, and there's two sides to that. Like the one is that I have a personal fascination for that. I'm a little bit of, well, I don't know, I'm a geek too when it comes to that, probably, would you say? I just like that era, and so I enjoyed also the research. And I think that's always a good sign. I think in general, if you don't enjoy doing the research about something, about the project or so, then it might be a sign that it's the wrong project. I don't know. So I really, really enjoyed this. But I think it goes beyond the nerd aspect of it. I would say that it's, in a way, this movie is also about technology and how technological in I don't know, developments also have an influence on how we perceive or how we see events like this. And so it goes beyond it being that gimmick. I would say it's we said we wanted to make a movie about a machinery and want to give the audience a feeling on how that machinery works. And I think especially in a time where the media works so fast, it's interesting to take a step back and see how, from our research at least, where it was for the first time that an event like this was on live television. So and for us also, it was important to give even though they are reporting on this tragic situation, in a way, we wanted the movie to feel also a little bit like a love letter to that area of television making, and to show the physicality of it or so. Yeah. And I think I had one screening actually in the US, and after that, a woman came up to me and she said she still worked for ABC at that time. And that movie to her felt like 90 minutes going back to work. I think that was probably one of the biggest compliments I got for the film, because in a way, we wanted it also to make about people in their work environment, right? Yeah. We didn't want to have, because there was a lot of discussions about backstories of people, personal backstories or so, but we quite early with the writer decided that we don't want any of this in there. We just wanted about these people and the challenge that they have to face in that right in that moment, and the effort that they do. And so it was very important to us that the work they do is portrayed accurately.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. We've got a line here. Guys, come and sit down. And they're going to introduce themselves, and who knows what they're going to ask, but thank you so much.
No, of course.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, hi. Oh, hi.
I'm Thayer. I'm a junior here at in the program.
Hi, nice to meet you.
First off, I love the movie. I actually work in sports broadcasting, so that was very entertaining to watch.
Okay.
And then my question for you, obviously this is a true story film, right? And a lot of true story films will deviate a bit from the story that they are just to fit the narrative and make a more compelling story. But I saw in some interviews that you guys did a lot of research and almost treated it like a documentary where you wanted to maintain the highest level of respect and the highest level of the truth as we know it within the story. How did you go about creating a compelling story while maintaining that truth and that high level of respect?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a question that we were dealing with through the whole process, right? Starts in writing, but also then when shooting and also casting, editing. It's always a question that we ask ourselves. We basically, we try to stick as close as possible to reality, but we took some liberties because at the end, also for us, it was important that it feels like we quite early said we wanted to feel like a heist movie almost a little bit. Except that in this heist movie, they're not on the hunt for money or a treasure, so they're on the hunt for pictures, basically. But we wanted that feeling and that structure of a heist movie because also, I mean, you said you worked in live broadcast, and I did a lot of research in live broadcasts of sports events, actually, also in the States also. And I was always like immediately fascinated by that world. And I mean, if you were in these rooms, you know how it is. Like once the countdown goes and they go live, it might also be like a regular every other Saturday afternoon football game or whatever. It's
Right.
that tension is there, and it's like immediate, and it's and I wanted that tension to convey that tension of live television to the audience. So long to answer your question, so it was that was one of the main things that we did. Of course, in reality, it took like 22 hours or so. It's unfolded over 22 hours, so it was, how do you say, making it more condensed, exactly. And the other thing is that for some characters, so for example, the main character, in reality, his job was not maybe, for example, talking directly to the cameras or so. This is some liberties that we took because it was just important for us that the audience can connect with the characters, or also the character of Leonie Benesh's character. She also, that was in reality several persons that we condensed to one character. So that's what we did. But we always try to stay as close as possible to reality. And also, of course, there was one thing that was a guideline in that also. That was the original broadcast. You know, we could always see like, there they went on a commercial break or so. So we could reconstruct a lot based on that also.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. That's good.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Kyle. I'm studying writing. And so I have a question from reading the script while I was preparing.
Oh, wow. You read the script. That's
yeah, it was very good.
Okay. Well, thank you. Can you find it online?
We had it
Probably,
as part of the preparation. So
okay. Great. No, that's great. They always do that. Usually nobody reads it then. Which I always, that's okay.
Yeah. So I'm also working on a script right now that has a lot of different characters. And so I found it really interesting how you were able to have all these different characters and how you were able to keep them interesting and how they all stood out on the screenplay. And so my question is, do you have any advice on how to handle a lot of characters, both in your mind and while writing it, so that they stay interesting and so your reader can kind of tell the difference and still be interested in all of them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That again also is related to quite the tonality of the film, so that you want to hit. Like, how extreme do you want to show these characters or so. And here again, we felt like, we always wanted to treat the story in a way with the biggest respect to the real tragedy that happened,
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, to us, it felt, that's getting back to what I said before, we wanted to do a movie about people in their working environment. It felt wrong for us, or it almost felt like, how do I say, not it felt not respectful enough to the main subject if you make it a story about characters and the development or so, and they're like, I don't know, they have some, what's at stake for their private life or so. It felt like that didn't do it. Would almost feel like we didn't want any of that. We just wanted the challenge in the here and now. And I think that's also a way how you can show characters, right? I think I don't have a answer or so that is definite or so to this. I think you can either show them but the audience just has to care about what he or she wants. I think that's the most important thing at the end. And for us, I think, again, like, what I learned from this project mostly is that the most interesting answers always lie in reality. It's just like, we just did a lot of research also on these people, and we were lucky enough that this day was, for so many people, that was a day that they could never forget or so. So a lot of people wrote a book about this day, and actually also one of the technicians or so wrote the book. So getting back to the first question, that's also where we not only learned a lot about the technological aspect of it, but also about that guy who then became a character or so. Or the whole idea for the movie, I can maybe talk a little bit about that later. It originated from a research call with an eyewitness also. And there are just some things that he said or so that we could have never invented as writers. And I think that's also, just to me, like, the most important advice. Just see what's I see what's there in reality, and sometimes reality is stranger than you can actually do it. Like, for example, the technician I was talking about, he supposedly had like some puppet, a rabbit, that he was constantly talking to. And we tried some versions of that, and then we felt like, no, it's silly. It's like, and again, like, it feels inappropriate towards the bigger subject. You have that kind of, sometimes you also have to see, like, okay, that's maybe not, here reality is too strange. So, but generally, I would consider myself not as that's actually something I think I have to learn. I have to write better characters, I think. So I think I'm not the strongest. That's not my specialty, I would say, writing strong characters. So there are certainly people that could answer your question better.
No, that was great. I really appreciate that take on learning from reality. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jane. Thanks. Thank you. Next. It's like always like, okay, what's next? Hi.
Hi. Hello. I'm Bailey, and I'm studying editing. So
Hi, Bailey. Oh, wow. Okay, you certainly, yeah. I think one of the best things about the movie is how it's edited. But yeah.
Yeah, I did appreciate a lot of those like montages where you were showing the editing.
Yes.
My question is, speaking as an editor, knowing that how I have to like you eventually have to cut stuff out of the movie and everything. Were there any scenes that you wanted in the movie, but unfortunately you just had to cut, or maybe even ones that you kind of regret cutting out and you kind of wish you kept in there? And I don't know how you reconcile with that, I guess. Because the movie was really good, but I'm wondering, was there anything that was like...
Yes, not we. For example, as it always is, we shot 2 or 3 versions of the ending, like slightly different, and at the end we decided to stay in that intimate moment. We had some moments where you saw him walking to the car, and then the camera panned up, and then you saw the Olympic Tower, the TV tower, and you saw like the signal it sends, and it goes out into the world, and it what does that mean for world history or whatever. And it all felt like, oh no, that's not the movie. It wanted to be bigger there than it is. Then we at some point try to keep it really intimate, you know, and just stay with our character in that moment. And that I think is the better way to end it. Not interestingly enough, usually, I mean, I shot a lot of material. So it was a lot of material that got cut out. It was just the way, or let me say it a little bit different. The way I shot it, the film, the idea that I had is to shoot it almost like me and the DP. We said we want to shoot it as if we ourselves would be a broadcast team in that room. And we also said, especially for the first take, we said, you do it as if you would be live right now. And we just shoot, you know, and you got to catch everything as if you were live with a camera on your first take. I think Steven Spielberg calls that the news camera approach, right? He tried that for first time for Schindler's List. And yeah, and also do nothing that you couldn't, don't show an angle or so that a person with a news camera would do there. So no showy angles or so, you know, like a cool low angle or whatever. Nothing like that. And then I had this idea, and I gotta say, that's also, it wasn't my idea. I learned that from watching a film, and I can only recommend that because I think I learned so much from watching films with DVDs. Actually, it was still like DVDs with a director's commentary.
Oh, I love director's commentary so much.
Absolutely. And I watched a film that was a big influence for this one. It's called United 93 by Paul Greengrass. And there he talked about how he recreated these scenes in these air traffic control rooms. And he basically said he recreated everything that came at them in real. And so we tried the same, like everything that came at these people via the monitors or the telephone calls or so happened in reality on our set. And then we would just be there with our cameras and just observe them, you know. And I wanted to have these long takes, like almost like if you do a stage play or so, where just everything happens in reality, you know.
I did like those long pauses and those like very dramatic moments, like they're dead and they need to talk to you. And it's just like that one shot in the hallway where they're just, I need to slowly go and talk to Marianne. That was really.
Exactly. And these kind of moments, you don't happen if you plan them, you know, in a way. It just happens if you have that kind of, and then of course that's that approach leads to, you create a lot of footage. That's why the editor, Hans-Jörg Weisberg, I think it was crucial on how the film feels like, because he then all brought into that form. And yeah, as I said before, I wanted it to have that live, being live feeling and everything. And interestingly enough, it was more of a challenge to find these quieter moments, like the one that you just mentioned.
Still true to life, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Oh, no, I thank you.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi. Thank you so much. Fantastic film. My
Yeah.
name's Jacob. I'm studying producing. So, yeah.
Okay, Jacob.
Yeah.
Good.
My question for you is, when in your process of writing or even directing did you guys decide not to recast Jim McKay? I just thought that element of the film was really interesting, that you only used the footage of the actual anchorman.
Oh, that was to me like never a question, actually.
Mhm.
From a director's point of view,
Mhm.
it was very much a question from a producer's point of view, because it was very tricky to get the rights,
Mm.
because part of the rights they share with the Olympic Committee, like the IOC,
Mhm.
and the IOC was not very cooperative. Maybe also not very keen on the idea that there's another movie on this or so being made. And so we had to, we quite early knew that everything that's with sports or so, we gotta recreate. And we did recreate. Also, we quite early decided that we don't want to show anybody's face who has really lost their life on that day. Because actually to us, it felt, we didn't want to fall into the trap almost that we ourselves become exploitive of the subject, that we become part of what this movie is criticizing also in a way. You know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But to get back to your question, I said at some point it was not clear if we can do it. And we were already casting actors for McKay.
Huh.
And one of them, and some were actually not that bad. But you know, if you're a producer, you might already know it, or if not, then you will certainly still learn it. Directors can be dramatic.
Yep.
I was in like pre-production. I was like in the office, you know, saying, if we don't get McKay, I'm not gonna do the movie at all. So this kind of style.
Yeah,
I would have done it anyway. I was bluffing, of course, but it would have been a complete different movie, because I think it's so important, because just the first aspect is that a lot of people still remember that, and still remember that day, and to them that's the face of today. Right? It was just a different time where the host is such an important part, and also the way he talks and everything is very unique, and it would have been hard to recreate that with an actor. And from a writing point of view, interestingly enough, I think if we would have cast McKay with an actor, then you would have been, oh, I want to see, why don't I see that person's story? Because actually it's maybe he had the hardest job of the day within that crew, because he actually had to talk to the audience. And then you would be like, okay, why don't I see more about his struggle? And we, you know, didn't want that. We wanted it about a film about the people behind the camera, you know. So also it was crucial for us to get it. And then I'm gonna then that was a long answer to
No.
and then what happened is like it was still unclear if we would get the footage. And I was doing research, because again, to all screenwriters, so I think that's the key to everything is research. And because it can also lead to something what I'm going to tell now. And I was at CBS Sports in New York at a regular broadcast, some football game or so. And CBS Sports back then was run by Sean McManus, and Sean McManus is the son of Jim McKay. Oh. And he also went into live broadcasting and became the head of CBS Sports. And I was researching, and I was also running around in the hallways, because I wanted to see everything, and know also how they do the catering, because I don't know how that looks and everything. And I saw that guy standing there in the hall, and I was like, oh my God, that's Jim McKay's son. I know how he looks like. Huh. And I just walked up to him and I said, Mr. McKay, I'm a director from Europe. I have a project, and your dad is like a very important part of it. Can we please talk? And then he not only talked about his experience, he was in Munich on that day as a teenager. He was actually in the broadcast room. That's another, getting back to the earlier question, that's another moment where he took artistic liberty not to tell that story of the teenager in the broadcast control room, because again, it felt to us like, that's not what this movie is about in a way. Anyhow, but he then actually gave us his blessing for the project, and that was key, I think, in getting the rights.
That makes sense. So was this footage, the footage of Tim McKay, something you'd seen before you started doing the writing?
Yes, that's also a good question, because we had only like a certain, we only saw what you could find online. And then one morning, and this is like literally like when, like for little kids when it's Christmas and the presents are there. So then one morning, the whole footage came in.
Wow.
It was great, a great moment, but it was also like 2 or 3 weeks before shooting, which was not so great. Because, it's like we had to immediately, and we were like, oh no, please don't. We watched it and we were watching it like this, like, oh no, please, no, not too many too good things where we need to react in the script. But there were these things. I can give you the best example is when they lose the satellite during the interview.
Mhm.
And they're like amidst the interview, and suddenly they're like, oh, we're so sorry, we're losing the satellite to that person, And this is something that you could have never invented it as a writer, because this just really happened. Then it was so good that we just thought, okay, that has to, or so important also for us, so that has to be part of the movie.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, sweet. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Jacob. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, Tim. My name is Will, and I'm
Hey,
going
Will.
hi. I'm going into the cinematography track here.
All
So
right.
watching movies, I'm always kind of thinking about the planning that maybe went behind some shots and things like that. And something that, like a shot that I really liked at the very beginning, a shot and cut, was when you hear the gun for the race go off, and then it cuts right to them pressing the broadcast button. And I think
Yeah,
that really just like set the tone of the film, like, oh, we might be thinking it's like a sports movie about the Olympics and stuff like that, but that really just took us into like, no, we're in a broadcast room.
Okay, great.
So I thought that was really cool. And so my question is, like, when you're building such an intricate set that's small, what part of that process goes into planning out shots? Like, does that happen as you're constructing the set, or do you kind of just build the set of what you need and then planning the shots comes afterwards? Or just what does that process kind of look like for you?
Well, the way, interesting question, and it's the way that Marcus, that's the P and I work, is that the plan is there is no plan. It's like, especially for this movie, we didn't, storyboard or so. We did some storyboards, but as I said before, it was the idea that we approach it as if we were live ourselves. I didn't. That it feels organic or so. So we didn't want to have this pre-visualized shots or so, and that. So basically, the most important. What was most important to us for this, how to build the set, is that we were as freely as possible with moving the camera, that you can shoot 360 degrees. And usually with a movie like this, you would have moving walls, right? So that you can work faster or so, or that you can get your fancy angles or so, where you can, I don't know what. And I didn't want that. We wanted the opposite. We wanted the walls really close, and we wanted to always be able to shoot in any direction, and that we can use it. And he had a very smart way of lighting it, I think. Everything was basically, then we could almost work without having any lights or so, light changes or so. Everything was with top lighting and panels and stuff. And he had some kind of a system, it better for sure, where he could talk to the guy from the light, he could immediately react super fast. And I don't know if you noticed, for example, that's another interesting thing about like the stroboscoping is the stroboscope. It had the slide stroboscope. We wanted that, that it that gets subtly stronger during the movie, the more intense the real life situation gets on their monitors. But basically the idea was we can shoot as freely as possible. And also it was interesting because it is a film about the behind the scenes film. And the actors also told us, for them, we were almost becoming invisible with the cameras because we were becoming part of the set, because we're also just there with it's another technique. It looks a little bit more modern, but basically it's another camera and another cable. So that was kind of the idea.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
Hey Tim, how's it going?
Good. Hey.
Hey, my name's Tony. I'm looking at post-production track.
Sounds
I'm trying to
good.
figure out how to ask this question because I watched The Colony as well before coming
Oh,
here to watch this.
oh,
And
mein
um
Beileid, I would say. I'm sorry. No,
no,
kidding.
it's great. I love
No,
both
no, no,
films.
no. Okay.
And I'm particularly interested in just how like the environment interacts with the characters, kind of like what you were just talking about with the last question is like looking at the environment you're going to be working in on set and with actors, but also in like the editing room, looking for those nuances on how like the environment is telling a story as well. So like in The Colony, it's very wet, and I was curious about like how did they prep to go into work in those conditions and work with like a budget and get the shots? Because to me, I would think you'd have to visualize that out and not spend so much time in those harsh conditions. But with uh, September 5th, like you could have more time to maybe explore some options because you're indoors and you could experiment a little bit more. But I'm just curious if I can ask this question simply, what helps you plan for working with your actors and incorporating like how the environment or the world of the film is telling a story at the same time? Does that make sense?
The environment of the set, you mean, in a way.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, if I get it right, the question, yeah, I think I try to make the environment. I think it's actually part of the main of the director's responsibility is to create an environment for the actor or for the cast that makes you bring your best performance in a way. So for me, it was very important that, except for example, the environment, that there was not a single green screen on these monitors, because I'm just a strong believer that it makes a difference if the actor looks, even if you're shooting a close-up of him or her, and it's like he or she looks at a green screen or at something happening. I think it's just a difference, except apart from that, the light is also slightly different. So we'd always say, like, for us, we'd rather track a monitor or so if we have to make a change or so than having it green. So there were absolutely no green screens, which is unusual for a film with a lot of monitors. Usually when you do a monitor, you come on a set of a monitor set or so, it's like every screen is green. And actors are like, oh, look, this, and they have no idea like what they talk about. We wanted it like everything on the monitors actually happened. Again, to get that feeling, and then rather take it into account that we had to change a little bit something or so if necessary, but it was still much less expensive than if we'd have it with green and everything. Every time we would need to exchange a monitor. So that was very important to us. Then, of course, also the physicality of it, like I said here, the AC is broken at the beginning. So I wanted it also to be hot on the set. Also, I didn't want any AC on our set. I wanted the sweat to be real, not only that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was literally thinking to ask that too, specifically about the AC, because I wondered, was that true to like information in your research that you came across, or was it just something you knew the environment needed?
Oh, no, that's something that's something that you don't come up as a writer, or at least I'm not a good enough writer that I come enough up with this myself. That's just you from reality. Like he told us that was a big issue. It's also fun again, because for the Germans, it's like they were always like, the Americans were the only ones on the whole lot having an AC. And they said like, it was part of their contract. We're not coming if we don't have an AC. Today, it's a little bit less common in Europe to have ACs. And then the AC broke on that day. That was true. And that was for us like, oh my God, that's like, we have to involve that into the story. But another thing that I want to say is that there was not a single green screen shot. Also, we worked a lot, like the helicopters and stuff we did with models. That was we shot a real helicopter this size. The airport shooting was like from a cardboard cut from like this, where we had like did draw an airport, and then we had like very old school with some lights. We made the muscle flashes or so. And that's just how my DP and I work. But then it's also very important that you have a VFX supervisor who actually is open for that. Then also sees like, hey, here, there, I can change that or that. I can do the Olympic Tower or so in front of the helicopter so that it looks small or something. Just thinking about it smartly in a way. Yeah, that's what I.
It was awesome. Very successful. I love both films. It was great. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for watching also The Colony. Yeah.
I loved it.
Thanks. September 5, obviously. Yeah, the better movie.
Yes.
Hi. Fantastic movie. Really loved it.
Okay, thanks.
My name's Andrew. I'm studying editing. And my question is kind of a little bit going back to the archival footage and
Yes.
what that experience was like, obtaining that archival footage. And, I guess my question is, how did they deliver that to you? And what did that look like? What did that process look like of obtaining and watching through that archival footage?
Basically, it sounds. I made it sound a little bit more exciting, maybe with like it's like Christmas coming in, but at the end it was a bunch of files, data's coming in, and a lot of grizzly gray images, a lot of commercials, and then in between some. I said that it's a little bit of a different situation because it wasn't such a tricky timing was tricky because it came in so late. So what I was saying, like, oh, we were watching it, and I have that weird feeling of like, oh, please make it. We hope that it's not too many great stuff in there that we have to that script to do. But yeah, so it's. And then we had a lot of footage. We had somebody just watching footage of that time that we could use from different sports events that we could say, oh, this is Olympics or so. You don't see it. But then at the end, it proved to be less complicated to shoot more. Yeah, but for us, that was the most important. Well, of course, their original broadcasts and trying to include that as much as possible.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Tim, we've got 2 more. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I think I want. Yeah. Sure. I can.
Hi. So my name's Isaac, studying directing. And so I also saw The Colony and read the script for September 5. And
Okay.
something funny that I noticed between the two scripts is that in both stories, there's kind of this conflict that rises from the language barrier. In The Colony, was that a fictitious language you guys made up for that movie?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So you have that fictitious language and English, and there's that communication barrier. And then in September 5th, you have German to English communication barrier. So is there something behind that? Is that, or do you just like stories like that? Or
I think that's not intentional or so, but I think it always makes it was important to make a point out of it because it was also for for them being in Germany and for the Germans, the Americans, and so on. It was part of the cultural. I don't know. I wanted it to make a big point or so because also in a way, I think this film is about communication, right? Even if it's communicating via media or so, but also language is also a form of a medium in a way, right? At the end, and it's so we thought that the translator becomes really important in a movie that is about communication or so. In a way, it would seem to us an interesting concept. And also, it was important for us that we shot the movie in Germany, so we wanted to have some kind of, I don't know, feeling of that they are really in Germany, of course.
yeah, like recreating that feeling for these actors as well, then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sweet. Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Hello, Tim. My name's Ty, and my question is, throughout the movie, David Berger is brought up a lot, and I just want to see what was the inspiration behind keeping David Berger a part of the story.
Yeah, you know what? It was the fact that he's an American, because that was in during our research. That's just what the real guy told us. That's how they thought. They knew, because to them it was right. It was completely fresh territory to report on a crisis like this. And then they knew, oh my God, one guy, they knew that they're mostly sending to the States, right? That's their signal. And then they knew that one of the people is in that apartment is an American. So they knew, or that was important to them, because then they anticipated, oh, were there his parents could watch this. And I just know this from talking to Jim McKay's son, as I was saying, that Jim McKay himself said, like, constantly when he was talking, it was not, oh, the whole nation is watching us. So, but he always thought, like, I'm talking directly to the parents of this kid who is right now in that apartment. And so that is why that character became so important to us.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you.
All right, Tim.
All right.
Man, thank you so much. I love that last line. As somebody who has held a camera at historical moments, and you're just sitting there thinking, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. And yeah, this is a powerful film. I love the line at the end where she says, we're waiting for something to happen so we could take a picture of it. Just really just nails it. And so great. Thank you so much.
I so sorry if I would, because
Sure.
there was one thing, if you don't mind, if you still have the time, because
Please.
like, what
Yeah.
would I want to hear as a student? And I want to tell one more story, and I think because that's to me
Please do.
the
Yeah.
best story about the whole, or the most interesting aspect of
Yeah.
how we got the idea to shoot it from that perspective. Because as often in cinema history, this idea, that was not a genius idea of us. It happened out of a necessity. We actually planned a whole different movie. We shot, and then we scripted a whole different movie. It was like 180 pages script where we told that story from various perspectives, very classical approach from the police side, from the we were in the apartment, politician side, and the media was just one of many storylines. And two things happened. One was that my previous movie, the one that some of the students were kind enough to say that it's a good movie, which is actually not really a good movie, but it was well done.
I liked it.
Oh, thanks, but it didn't do too well. And parallelly, when it started, like, as you know, there's a healthy discussion going on. Who can tell a story about what? And when we were already so far that I was about to cast one of the perpetrators. And when I came to that question, I was like, oh my God, do I really know who these people were? Can I actually, when casting it suddenly, I realized it more like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about here. And I got a little bit of cold feet, and apparently producers got cold feet because of the high budget and my movies. And then we had that one call where they called just in the morning, they said, like, guys, we're sorry, but it's done. Can't make it. And then I talked to my writer and said, first we were devastated, but then I talked to my writer and said, do you remember when we had that conversation with the eyewitness that was in the broadcast room? And we hung up when we jokingly said, you know what, we could set the entire movie in that room, almost like a Hitchcock film or so. And it's even more exciting. And then we said to producers, give us 3 weeks, we want to try something. And we came back after 3 weeks with that script, and it was just so much better. They loved it. They read it. They said, it's so much better. It's much more interesting. It's much more modern, what it is about. And the best is we can do it for a fraction of the budget. And all of that was long time before October 7th happened, which happened when we were already in post-production. And the other approach we could have never released. And the thing is, like, I was so mad at the producer who pulled the plug. Now when I see him, I fall on my knees. I owe you everything. And just like, I think it's a great story of how a limitation sometimes can, instead of letting it down, it sounds like a cliche sentence, but instead of letting use it as a chance or so, and see like, okay, it leads maybe to something more interesting.
Right.
It's basically the example of Jaws, right? The shark doesn't work.
Right.
Jaws would have been a trashy B movie if that robot would have worked, but it didn't. So they had to come up with something else, and that also made the movie so much more interesting. That's what I wanted to say.
It's just brilliant. That is just such a great example. Thank you for sharing that. I've noticed that the sun has come up in Germany since we've been speaking, and we should let you go about your day. We really
Okay, no, I
appreciate you
enjoyed this
taking
very
the time.
much. Thank you
I'm
very
going to
much.
ask one quick last favor. As I post these things on YouTube, I need to get like a screenshot of you smiling. So if I could just take a picture of you, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so
Good.
much. And just everyone give a big hand for Tim.
Bye. Thank you very much. Let me see. That's how it looks.
Oh, lovely. What a view.
Yeah.
What a view.
It's actually it looks much nicer than it actually is. Okay, bye.
Where are you? I don't know what city you're in. What city are you
No,
in?
I'm in Berlin. In Berlin.
Berlin for sure.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Have a
Bye.
great day. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Bye.
Password, right?